you know what we do with collaborators,
right?
And my fantasy dream is that this nightmare ends in 2029, and I think we ought to have radical things. To have heads shaven, they should be put in orange pajamas. They all ought to have their heads shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas, and it should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the public should be invited to spit on it. All of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on. It's a moral judgment. If you bend a knee to a criminal tyrant, and that's what he is. Understand, he is a criminal. 34 convictions would have been a lot more, okay, if they would have pursued it. He is a tyrant. He has no use for democracy. He has no use for the values of his country. And you are collaborating with this, and it will bring eternal shame to your company.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. Kermode Baird's already hanging out on the attack in the chat. I see already. He says, Austin has a hater. Some retard communist hit the dislike button. Kermode. Probably true. It's a daily hater. I love how you guys keep track of that. Like, I don't even look at that stuff. I don't have time to worry about that kind of shit. I just gotta dust your shoulders off and just keep moving forward. That's all you can do. Today we're talking about something that used to be obvious, but isn't anymore. We're going to talk about strength, work, purpose. The thing that turned this country from a frontier into a civilization, the things that used to make sense to everyone, until the professional class, the elites of this country, decided to psychoanalyze them out of existence. The Hill, which is a leftist blog that purports to be a news organization like so many in Washington, D.C., covers Washington, D.C. politics. I'll say left of center. Far left. No, everything to the left is far left. That's how it works these days. Since we're on the offense anymore, we're not playing defense anymore. The Hill published an essay that landed like a branding iron on the backside of the Democratic Party. Yeehaw! Why men are leaving the left and not coming back. Don't give them your seed, men. Withhold your seed. And it lays out in glorious, unfiltered detail what is happening right now. The left didn't just lose men politically. It lost them existentially. When you tell men that strength is toxic, that fatherhood is oppressive, and that competition is a social disease, don't be shocked when they pack up the toolboxes and head for the exits. This is so funny, too, because, first of all, happy anniversary, Steffi. Glorious years of marriage. But we were talking about this the other day, and she's like, I just don't want we were talking about the karate belt test and how there's so much pressure and you have this competition aspect to it, and then you've got to get out there and prove yourself alone in front of people. And she's like, I just don't like all this competition stuff, and isn't there a way to do it where we're not all competing? And I'm just like, and she's like, I don't understand why and I go, because you're a woman. And of course, women don't compete publicly, they compete privately. Prove me wrong. Camellia will be here, a woman, at 8 a.m. And she will have all of the blushing going on, and her cheeks will be as red as her lipstick by the time it's over, as it always is. We'll talk to her about that. There was a time, though, when the Democratic Party could, it could speak to a man who worked with his hands. Like my grandfather, he was an electroplater during the war. He was always working with his hands. Roosevelt, Truman, Kennedy, those were presidents who could talk to a man like that. Those guys, they could pour concrete in the morning and then give a speech about freedom in the afternoon. When Donald Trump showed up to work at McDonald's, it was a sign of something, that the party of the working man is now the Republican Party. But now the Democrats were finally starting to understand the fallout of how it's impacting the Democratic Party. The modern left, of course, treats masculinity like it's a defective product that's under recall. Every speech that we get about our masculinity is kind of one of those annoying TED Talks, but it's not. It's like the TEDx talk, not TED. They couldn't get into the main forum So they put people like Anita Sarkeesian, Feminist Frequency, and the whole cause of Gamergate, the departure, the head for the great mass exodus of men from the left, from the Democratic Party. Being in the Democratic Party is a signal that you are either not a man or you're anti-man. Even the men who are in the Democratic Party right now, they're not real men. The closest they can get is a kind of a metrosexual caricature of a man, which is Gavin Newsom, who's corrupt as the day is long, who's turned his state a once damn near Republican utopia, overrun with crime, overrun with drugs, overrun with taxes and regulations, and people are heading for the exits. But if you're from California, we need to sign a compact, like a 49-state compact, that if you come from California, you can't vote for 10 years until you understand, who's with me, the fruits of the blessings. You disenfranchise yourself. If you grew up in California, but you can take a citizenship test and prove you're not brainwashed. How about this? For anyone who wants to emigrate out from California, you just have to retake the American citizenship test again, the immigration one. Most people would fail. Every liberal would fail because they wouldn't be able to answer. Christopher Columbus. Overrun with illegals, exactly. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget to click the like button and follow as well if it's your first time. So men don't need therapy, he said, as the husband of a therapist who's probably talking to a man right now in Missouri who's got problems. What do men really need? They need purpose. They don't want to be managed. They want to be moved. What do you want, man? What do you want? What do you need? If you ask another man this question, what is it you guys want? You probably get a pretty straight answer. Most of the time, the guy's going to tell you what he'd like to do, some of his dreams, some of his plans. But when the ladies show up, we have to mitigate that. We have to modulate that. But what about Sunday? What about this, right? And they're speaking for our schedules. But what do you really want, guys? It's okay to admit it. Drop the comments in the Rumble chat if you really want it to be private. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Send us a text to that phone line that you see at the bottom of the screen. If you make a Rumble Rant donation during the live show this morning, thank you. That helps to unlock the bonus content. Drew just dropped $1 in the tip jar. We appreciate that. And that gets him an entry into the game. At the end of the show, we play a little game. Today's is going to be a really fun game. I think today we're going to be playing Guess That Song Emoji Edition. So you have to watch the emojis and then guess the name of the song from just the emojis. These are really fun games that we play at the end of the show. And everybody who makes a donation to the show or who makes a purchase at the For Liberty shop is entered for the game. You must be present to win, and we do give out a really nice prize for whoever wins. You can play it on your mobile phone. It's real simple. We send you a text message with the code. If you make a donation to the show this morning or you make a purchase from the show, then you're entered to win, and everybody who plays wins. Is that as easy as I can make it sound? It really is that easy. Quest wants to play. So we've got two entrants. So they both have a 50-50 chance right now of winning the game and going home with a really nice prize from forlibertyshop.com. But Drew's been winning, and then he's just like, make a donation to Hazel's college account, which thank you, Drew. We've been doing that. I've been giving Hazel's custodial account special little bumps. Thank you very much, BB for Liberty, for keeping an eye, of course, on everything. He's the guy who's going to be sending you the text messages with your codes. But if you've already made your contribution or you're getting ready to, just don't forget that you have to text the show line at the bottom of the screen in order to get your entry code and be able to play the game at the end of the show. At 7:30 this morning, I'm really excited. Today's show is going to be freaking fantastic. Because joining us at 7:30 a.m. Central, we're going to speak to Jeff Reed. I haven't talked to him before, but he came through a connect. The guy, my beef guy that I buy my beef from, and man, is beef expensive. The Missouri Cattlemen's Association, Jeff Reed, he's the head of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association, and he's going to talk to me today about the great beef war. This is a thing. President Trump's decision to allow more Argentine beef imports has ranchers furious. Thomas Massie is jumping into the ring with the Prime Act. So is Trump betraying the ranchers on this one, or is he playing a bigger hemispheric game? We're going to find that out today, because at the end of the show today at 8:30, We're going to have Daniel McCarthy, Tory anarchist, to talk about that. We've got Camellia, not a chameleon. She's not a chameleon. She's the same. At 8 a.m., we're going to talk to Camellia Peterson about the deeper side of the masculinity story and the existential crisis that men of the left are having, if there's any left. And then finally at 8:30 a.m., we're going to go international. So we're going hyper-local to Missouri, Camellia on the state level, and then we're going up to international level at 8:30 to talk international politics, because Daniel McCarthy wrote an article in the New York Post. He sent it to me. He rarely does that, but he must have known that I was really into this topic. And he sent me an article and said that he will... I have just realized I have double booked my guests in the timing, guys. Guess what? You're going to a commercial break. I got to fix this right now. We'll be right back. It's a Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Don't go away. No. I did change it. Hold on. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. I just want to double check. I have a heart attack. I'll be right back.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Okay, I thought that everything was okay this morning. When I went to sleep last night, I slept well, and I thought I was going to have a great show. I hope it is. I just sent Daniel McCarthy an email because we were like emailing back and forth so much that we like confirm, and then I sent like another one confirm, and then it was like, I don't know if he got the final confirmation. We're switching the times, right? Because I wanted to go local 7:30 Central, 8 o'clock Camellia state level, and then 8:30 international, because I feel like that just makes the most sense. Putting out fires while the show's live, and there's some kind of like skipping, or somebody said there was an echoing going on out there. You know, it's just Friday. Please just be here. When I suffer, it's in public. Oh well, let's have some fun. We'll make the best of it. Hopefully everything works out. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's a mystery. We will have Jeff Reed at 7:30. I hope I will have Daniel McCarthy at 8:30. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Whoa, yeah. So if everything works out, then Daniel McCarthy is going to talk to us about how Trump is taking on cartels and communists from Colombia to Buenos Aires. Trump's betting the American dollar on free markets. Strong, if you can believe it. In free markets in this one case. Trump is for international free trade in this one case. God bless Javier Milei, Ben, the freaking Libertad Avanza party. You guys better win some stinking seats down there, because now that we're invested, I want to see a better outcome on this one. The money to Argentina. I love Javier Milei, but kind of tired of sinking money in third world rat holes. It's hard to say that that the people of Argentina have really learned their lessons from socialism and communism. But if the Peronistas take back over in Argentina, Trump said, we're probably done with them forever, which would be a real shame, because the United States needs more allies. We've got so few around the world who really want to do good business with us and who aren't terror threats and real regional rivals. So we're going to talk to my boy, Daniel McCarthy. I've known him for years. Daniel McCarthy he's a very intelligent man. Always very thoughtful and just intensely knowledgeable. He's the type of person that if you're a book reader or if you're into minutia about right-wing politics, Daniel McCarthy can be the person that can talk you through every single aspect. He could probably go back and say 1984, Reagan, Bush. Oh, and we just happen to, I'm the type of guy who just sells the Reagan Bush 84 shirts at the Grift Shop. And we also have a brand new design that Brad made over on the shop. ATF sucks. What kind of a right-winger does this make me? ATF sucks over at the Grift Shop. If you guys go there, you can type in ATF sucks in the search. The fun thing about the ATF sucks design is that you can get it on a mug delivered to your front door. Remember, the price always includes delivery. But we have got the cool thing about the ATF sucks design is that if you go ATF sucks in the search up at the top of the screen, we've also got koozies, hoodies, and t-shirts, and it's hoodie season. So my recommendation to you guys is that you head over to the Grift Shop this morning and help to unlock the bonus content. And if we hit $100, you'll unlock phase 1 of the mini documentary. And if we hit $100, it's also going to unlock the little mini game that we play at the end of the show today to win real prizes from the shop, which could be something like an ATF Suggs mug. So head over to forlibertyshop.com and have a chance of winning a prize, unlock the bonus content, watch our mini documentary, and get entries into our mini game at the end of the show. I'm just doing everything I can to make the show as fun as possible. So many ways for it to benefit you to participate with us. Even $1 dropped into the, excuse me, even if you just drop $1 into the Rumble Rant system right now, that'll get you an entry into the game at the end of the show. And it's a really good thing. It's a really good investment because, especially if you shop at the shop, you get a $5 gift card no matter what at minimum. Everybody wins something, but there will be one grand prize winner. So. Okay, so let's talk about, let's see, it's 7:21 and I got Jeff Reed coming in less than 10 minutes. So I have a whole segment cooked up for what's happened, why men are leaving the left and no one, and not one of them is coming back. But I don't think I've got enough time really to do that. So I've got to go get Jeff Reed on this show. And I just want to confirm that Daniel McCarthy is going to do the later time so that everything works out. Honestly, I'm sweating bullets, guys. I'm feeling like my stomach is tied up in knots right now. I should not have to stress like this. Here's a story. When I was working at the Fox Business Network, I had this executive producer, this Jewish guy by the name of Gary Schreier. He was real tough. I mean, he was a tough son of a bitch. And he's still out there today. Executive producers, they are producing live television, and they'll have 4 or 5 shows at one time that they're managing all the shows. And so they have to be tough as nails because, of course, every day at 5 p.m., you got to get a show out, one show, and it's all these logistics, international logistics, all these things that are going on, managing a whole crew. You've got to be just a tough son of a bitch. And so then I go one day, and I'm learning from him, you know, and I'm usually pretty mild-mannered. I just kind of do my job, stay out of people's way, try to be helpful and stuff like that. I'm a young associate producer at Fox. So you know, Gary's like cussing and he's slamming down phones and he's like, get me that gas now on the air. Like, you know, he's in the control room. He's looking there. He's like, beautiful. And then every once in a while he'd be like, this is nice, you know, yeah. And then he's like, son of a bitch, you know the type of boss, right? The ball buster too. I mean, he was a ball buster. Not when we were producing live television, but he would be a ball buster when we were like prepping for the show, pre-production. But I remember one day I'm in the control room and something was going on, and I was just like taking a cue from Gary, and I grabbed the thing. I was like, get him on the phone now. Bam! And he looks over to me, and he was in one of his moods like this. And he looks over at me, he goes, Austin, he goes, it's just television. Nobody's going to die here today. Just take it easy. Like, you, Gary, going to tell me to take it easy? This is how you are all the time. Bafangu, fuck your mother. All right. So Danny McCarthy sent me an email back. Please let it be that it's okay. 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central. Please. I'm going to consult the bones. Everybody, please wish me good wishes if this email is what I need it to be, so that I can give you the most perfect Wake Up America show you've ever seen. Coming up next, Jeff Reed, Missouri Cattlemen's Association, talk about the beef with the beef. Where's the beef? We'll be right back. It's Wake Up America show.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the For Liberty Network. We're glad and thankful to have you all here today. Click the like button if you haven't already. And if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show and you're like, hey, that's good stuff, then just FYI, we are 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Make us a part of your day. We're streaming live in Jefferson City, Missouri, the heart of Missouri, the heart of the United States. And we would love to have you be a regular viewer. If you click that follow button, you will get a notification whenever we go live, which is, again, 5 days a week.
Recording in progress.
It's time to talk, not turkey, it's time to talk beef. The great beef war broken out into the open. President Trump says U.S. cattle ranchers don't understand how much his tariffs have helped them, and that they need to get their prices down. He's defending his proposal to import Argentine beef to cool the grocery prices. It's got ranchers from Texas to the Ozarks furious. Colin Woodall of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association says the president is, quote, undercutting the future of family farmers. Even Republican senators like Deb Fischer and Kevin Kramer are warning that this move could devastate rural producers. So what's going on? Is it a betrayal of America first? Or is this a strategic play in Trump's new alliance with Argentina's libertarian president Javier Milei, our homeboy, you know? So these are tough topics. These are sticky, tricky questions. We better bring in an expert. Jeff Reed, he's the head of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association. He's a man who knows the ranching business from the soil up. He's joining us live here on the Wake Up America show today. Good morning, Jeff, and welcome to the Wake Up America show.
Good morning.
Yeah, we're an early show, but being a rancher, I figured you'd have no problem with it. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Jeff, start here. When Missouri ranchers heard that the White House might start buying Argentine beef, what's the gut reaction on the ground? What are you hearing from producers across the state?
You know, there's concern from producers. Our executive, as soon as stuff started coming out, we kind of put our heads together and, we still don't really know, the plan with Argentina. President Trump is very strategic and he's a business guy and he's looked at all these things and we just try to calm people down. Let's wait and see what the plan actually is. And unfortunately, as we saw, the internet got very interesting with producers and posts on True Social and that kind of thing. And there was a back and forth and still as Missouri Cattlemen, we've just stayed out of it. Like, we want to hear the president's plan. We elected him to do these type of things, to shake the market up. So we want to hear the plan. We already import beef from Argentina, around $801 million a year. About 2% of our imports come from Argentina right now. And so it's our kind of methodology is, let's not be reactionary. Let's let the president kind of sort things out. Well, a lot of other groups jumped on him and attacked him, so to speak. And as we well know, President Trump doesn't tolerate that. And so there's the back and forth yesterday that we saw on social media. And so we think people are kind of calming down a little bit now and let's get back to business. Let's actually hear the president's plan before we attack him.
That's a very Missouri conservative kind of approach to things, honestly, Jeff. I would know. Born and raised in Missouri on not a cattle farm. We were a horse farm, but I understand the culture. How thin are the margins right now for the small and mid-sized ranchers? So if if it's only 800 million, what happens to local auction prices and the feedlot demand here in Missouri?
The cattle futures market on Thursday, when he made the Argentina announcement, went down. They didn't limit down that day, but they definitely went down. But the actual live cattle markets like Joplin Regional Stockyards, who we do business with, I've been very much a proponent of theirs. We do receiving pins for them, and I'm a big fan of the Moore family, and other ones like Callaway. Like those markets were steady. Those markets were steady to up, and so you didn't see in the live cattle in the auction barn the same thing you saw with the Chicago Board of Trade. And so there's still a disconnect between Chicago Board of Trade live cattle and the actual cattle in the livestock auction markets. So the impact wasn't there with the actual live cattle in the markets.
The president says that ranchers are doing better than ever because of his tariffs, but that beef prices are still too high for consumers. So from your perspective, are the ranchers price gouging? Are there deeper market pressures? Processing bottlenecks, feed costs, drought. Was there something that Washington maybe doesn't understand?
I think they understand it, but I think it's a combination of all those factors. If you talk about a rancher price gouging, a typical rancher, they'll raise calves, right? And they sell those calves, and typically after the calf is sold, it goes to what we call a backgrounder, and they'll raise them as yearlings, we call. And so like from 550 to maybe 750, 800 pounds, they go to a different producer to graze on like wheat pasture or a cover crop pasture. And then they go to like a finishing yard for the next section of their life. And that's very typical in our industry. So to say ranchers are price gouging, I don't think so. We've been very much a proponent of decreasing the concentration of the packer market, because they're typically the ones who wind up with the end product. They harvest the animals and they sell the actual beef to the grocery stores and that kind of thing. And right now there's 4 major ones that control about 86% of the beef protein that's sold to grocery stores. And we've been very much a proponent of getting, more regional packers, easing up regulations to allow them. Water is typically the issue that kind of stops those packers. So like in Wright City, Missouri, American Food Groups just built a slaughter facility, and they actually spent millions of dollars developing their own water system and gave it to the city municipality for a tax credit, essentially, to treat the water. And so the water they take into their plant the water they put out of their plant is actually cleaner than the water they take in, but it's millions of dollars to get that system established. And so that's typically kind of where you see the problems with getting more regional packers is the water issue.
Now, what we're paying at the grocery stores right now, how much of the grocery store price actually reaches the rancher's pocket once the packers, the distributors, and the retailers take their cuts? So, for example, at Hy-Vee last week, I bought a pound of the lean, the 90 lean beef, and it cost us about $10 for a pound of that. So how much of that makes its way into the cattleman's pocket?
Minimal. Very, very minimal. So like I might sell, we actually do several sections of the feed yard of the calf system ourselves. So we take our calves, we background them as yearlings, and some of them we will feed out. But like a finished calf that weighs, 1,500 pounds when it's slaughtered, you essentially see 50% of that being the end product. We see minimal for that. So right now calves are selling as high as they've ever sold because the cattle numbers are so low. But we might sell a calf right now for $2,400 for a 500-pound calf. That retail cut calf in the grocery store now is probably north of 5,000. I'd have to sit down and do the math on it, but what ranchers are seeing is very minimal. Each sector has to make a piece of the pie, so to speak. And then at the end of it, when you've got for packers controlling the majority of the market, they dictate when and how the cattle out of the feed yards are bought.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm speaking to Jeff Reed. He is the head of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association. If you just tuned in, I'm Austin Peterson, and this is the Wake Up America show. Jeff and I are talking a little bit about the great beef wars. Who's got the beef and how much does it cost? It's high quality, it's low quality, it's from Argentina. It's high quality, it's low quality. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I want to hear, Jeff, what you think specifically about Thomas Massie's Prime Act. Now, this is a law that would let states sell custom slaughtered beef intrastate. So it would cut through the federal red tape entirely. Is that something that would make ranchers less vulnerable to the global policy swings?
I think there are pieces in the Prime Act that could work. The biggest concern I have with the Prime Act, and we were in D.C. a month or so ago working with legislators trying to kind of get something logical there, because the Prime Act, if you really read into it, I could slaughter a calf in my backyard and put that on a grocery store shelf with no inspection. And that's a concern. We want safe product in the grocery store with inspection services. Right now we have that. I can take a calf to my local slaughter facility, a small packer. They might kill a handful a week, and that's an inspected facility, and that has to be inspected by a USDA inspector to go on the grocery store shelf for sale. The Prime Act would not permit the inspection of the meat processing.
When you say it would not permit it, you mean it would not permit it, but do you mean it would not require it?
It wouldn't require it. No.
No. That sounds great. I mean, if I could slaughter a calf in my backyard and sell it to my neighbor, I shouldn't be allowed to do that?
No, you can do that now.
Okay.
It just has to go to a slaughter facility
Why?
to be, because you have to have the inspection services. So let's say I did that, right? And I did it in my backyard, and I wanted to put it on a grocery store shelf. And so I'll take it to a retail facility, let's say Poplar Bluff, Missouri, just south of us. And I contaminated that meat somehow. Somehow I didn't follow the right protocols. There's no accountability for me to be held accountable for not providing safe food to a grocery store shelf.
There's nothing in state law that would prevent you from doing something like that, or the only laws that are on that are federal?
Well, if we pass the Prime Act, it would bypass that. That's my concern with the Prime Act.
Do you just prefer federal oversight to
No, I do not.
Okay, well, then I guess that's what I'm trying to that's what I'm working towards here, is that it's what you're describing. You make it sound like a bad thing, but it sounds like a good thing to me, because then the states would actually be the ones who are more accountable to us for the inspection process. I think it sounds like he's trying to bypass the USDA. Is it the view of the Cattlemen's Association that the USDA is a vital part of the inspection process? Because it sounds like federal oversight where maybe it should be a state thing. Can you talk us through that?
Sure. So we definitely need USDA inspectors at some level. Now, there are state inspected facilities as well, but I cannot sell direct meat product. I can't sell a package of hamburger. I could sell you a calf as my neighbor, and that calf I could take and drop off at that facility, and that state inspected facility, you could purchase the calf from me, and then they would process it there, and then you could pick up your retail cuts from that. So I'm not selling you retail cuts. I'm selling you a calf. So there's already a way to do that and sell it to your neighbor. The Prime Act would take out all state inspection, all federal inspection, and just allow me to slaughter the calf and sell it to you.
Excellent. So
that's how we do with our neighbors right now. So we whenever a neighbor or somebody approaches us and wants to buy a calf, I sell them the calf, deliver the calf to the facility, and then they fill out the retail cuts they want with the butcher there. And that part of the end product is done between the butcher and that person, but it's a state inspected facility.
So if you could tell the president, if you could advise the president on policy, and his singular concern is to bring the cost of the of food down, which, I, as an American, I think I should have a right to be able to eat what I like and not have the, the government or, the Cattlemen's Association even telling me what I can eat and who can eat it and from where and what sources. I'm a little bit more anarchist, perhaps, than the Cattlemen's. But what I would like to know is, what would you tell the president in the real world? What would you suggest if he had that singular policy goal in mind? What would you suggest to him to try and give some relief to people out there? Like, I feed beef to my child, right? A lot of people now are giving their children, high quality beef. How would you accomplish that if you could advise President Trump?
I think he's headed down the direction. So USDA actually just, I believe yesterday, released their plan on those specific things and how to get more healthy product directly to children, to school systems, to lower the cost of beef. And I think he's headed in that direction. With the screwworm issue in Mexico, we've had the imports there stop. I think he's headed in the right direction. He's got to fill the gap in the cattle that were coming over from Mexico. You talked earlier about, you purchased 90% lean trim. We have to have import cattle to provide that lean trim. Now, we don't want to flood a market, and President Trump knows that. He's not going to do that. He's going to be strategic in how he does that. But we have to have leaner beef from countries like Argentina and Brazil and Australia that we already import with. But whenever you have Mexico and the screwworm and having to stop the border there, those lean cattle have been pulled out of the marketplace. And so we've got to pick that up from somewhere. And so it's very complicated on how do you do it, but not cause the market to crash. So yesterday, the cattle market was limit down. Like it went down as far as legally allowed. And so all over, some social media posts. So how do you adjust the beef market, protect the rancher, and provide a high quality product in the grocery store that's at a fair market price? So it's very complicated. I think he's headed in that direction, but I think everybody's just got to take a step back, let the president work, not be critical of everything he does at every step. And then just kind of see where we land, as far as imports goes.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Jeff, in that sense, because the thing about President Trump, I've been very critical of him on questions of free trade or certain issues that I have when it comes to constitutional authority for the president versus Congress. But if you wait and see, typically, and not just jump all over him, then more often than not, there's a method to the madness. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But I think personally that I get a lot of crap for voting for Trump and for wearing this hat. I'm sure somebody wants to shoot me for it. But I'll just say that he's the best president we've had since Ronald Reagan, in my opinion. I don't know what you think about it. I started out as a real heavy critic of him, and now I really kind of like him.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Yeah. Like sometimes I wish he wouldn't post on social media, jokingly, right? But
yeah, we got gripes.
I truly respect him as a strategic plan and the things he's done for our industry as we talk about the U.S.-Mexico Canada agreement and kind of all the trade deals that affect beef, beef in Japan, Australia. So Australia was sending us all their beef and they would accept none of our beef. He fixed that overnight.
Now here's just for my own, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Japanese beef. What's the deal with all these American producers calling their beef Wagyu meat? That's Japanese for Japanese cow. What's with all the Americans labeling their beef Wagyu here in the United States?
So Wagyu is a breed of cattle that has an extremely high marbling ability if fed correctly. And so there is a market for that product that.
But I'm buying Wagyu and it said Wagyu literally means Japanese beef, but it's American beef. Now, there's a lot of labeling. There's a lot of labeling shadiness going on here.
There is. And that's, part of, the USDA's new plan is accountability and labeling. And so Wagyu in the United States is a recognized breed. And while in Japan, that might be the name, but in the United States, it's a recognized breed. So
right, but it's kind of like natural versus organic. And you should know this too, where it's like if you label something natural, what the hell is natural mean? But organic has an actual set of standards you have to achieve, right?
So yeah, you can put natural or organic on a label, and it might not be, but if it says USDA organic, then it actually has a set of standards behind it.
Got it. Interesting.
And that's the labeling piece that I'm with you. You know, I think if there's a label on that, it actually needs to be. So USDA, you know, I think in March of last year came out with the product of the USA label. So those cattle have to be born, raised, and slaughtered in the United States of America.
Gotcha. So I mean, that's another thing that Thomas Massie's kind of been screaming about this week is that if we're going to bring in beef from Argentina, it should say beef from Argentina. I imagine you agree with that.
I agree with that. You know, I think, you know, Thomas Massie's pushed the mandatory country of origin labeling, which is an Obama era. You know, basically overnight said, hey, we're going to label all beef. It ended up costing us about $9 billion in trade deals. Because of the way the trade deals were written, we had to pull out of some trade deals. And so we don't support the mandatory. Most of the things that our association pushes are voluntary. Let a cattle producer decide how and when they want to market their product, and then let the consumer decide how and when they want to purchase that product. So if I decide I want to participate in the product of the USA label, I will have to prove those cattle are born, raised, and slaughtered in the United States. And then the consumer will say, hey, I see that American flag product of the USA. I want to purchase that. That should be the relationship, but it's got to be honest. I'm with you 1,000% on that. It can't just have an American flag in the bottom right corner and be tricking a consumer into purchasing it with, you know, because it's got an American flag, they think it's American. But personally, this isn't our association, but personally, I do believe if we're bringing a calf in out of state or out of the United States, I feel like those products should be labeled. Our product should not, as an American producer, I shouldn't have to bear the burden to put a label saying it's in the United States, because that will put the burden and cost on myself. Why as an American citizen, should I have a burden to prove that my cattle are here? I feel like if we're going to import those, then that's where that should be.
There we go. Jeff Reed, head of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association, joined us live. Unless it comes from the Japanese region of Wagyu, it's not Wagyu, it's just sparkling beef. Okay, anybody get the champagne joke? No? It's like tequila and mezcal. Unless it comes from the tequila region, it's not tequila. Hey, Jeff, you're a good man. Thanks for doing what you do for Missouri Cattlemen here, and I look forward to hopefully having you back again soon. Good luck with all the challenges that you guys have ahead. I'm sure that good conservative Missouri men like yourselves will be able to handle things just fine for us. We'll see those prices come down. You have a good one.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There we go. That's Jeff Reed. Give him a round of applause. Joined us nice and early today on the show. Who's it early for? Not for men like Jeff Reed and not for people like us that watch the Wake Up America show. I'm AP for Liberty, and I want to talk to you about one of my favorite things in the world, which is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is not an emerging technology. It's here, and this latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. The Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com. That's the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO. That's the powerhouse token that fuels their fast, low-fee DeFi, staking rewards, and real-world perks like cash back on your spends. When it's done, this new company is going to be the biggest CRO holder out there. And if you want in on the action, I suggest you head to Crypto.com today. You see that QR code on your screen. Grab some CRO and let's make crypto great again. There we go. Thank you, Rumble. Everybody say thank you, Rumble. We've raised $12 towards the bonus content. If we hit $100, that'll unlock the bonus content. The sweet, sweet mini documentary that I've produced for you for today, a Lego mini documentary, perhaps, or maybe another art style. You'll have to see, but you have to donate. If you want to donate, then you guys are helping to support not only great interviews like the one you just heard with Jeff Reed from the Missouri Cattlemen's Association, but you're also going to get to sponsor it so that we can hear from Camellia Peterson at 8 a.m. to talk about the existential crisis of left-wing males. And then we're going to, at 8:30 a.m. Central, talk with Daniel McCarthy, who wrote in the New York Post about how Trump's beef with the beef ranchers is part and parcel, is a conflict of tension, of course, with what his goals are in Latin America, specifically Argentina. So we're going to talk more about that international question at 8:30 a.m. Central Time with Daniel McCarthy. So if you guys want to support the show and you guys want an entry into our game show, at the end of the show today, we play a game. And right now we've got, I think, 2 or 3 entrants, people who will be able to play with us. And somebody's going to win a grand prize from the Griff Shop at the end of the show today. How do I get an entry to win? Send us a Rumble rant of any amount or go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. Get yourself an ATF Sucks hoodie. That's a good one. Derek Mollier says, thank you, Rumble. Good morning, Derek. It's nice to see you again, sir. Hope we can see you on Friday night on Freedom Arcade again, too. And don't forget, of course, that if you go to forlibertyshop.com and you make a purchase during the live show this morning, not only does it help to unlock the bonus content itself, guys, but it also gets you an entry into the game show at the end of the game, and you're supporting a great content like the interviews that you just saw and that are coming up. It's a good cause no matter what. Derek just got himself an entry into the prize. How does Derek get his code to play the mini game at the end of the show today? He sends Brad a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. He sends a text and says, let's play. And Brad will send you back the code to play at the end of the game. You must be present to win, and everybody who plays will win something. So get yourself an entry by making a Rumble Rant donation or by buying something at the Griff Shop. Remember, in order for it to unlock, we have to hit $100 raised. We're at $14 now. So what that means is that we still got a long way to go to unlock phase 1 and phase 2. They both unlock at the same level. Keep dropping those Rumble Rants. Go make a purchase at the Griff Shop. We'll be right back with Camellia. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that, in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers. Pronouns are mandatory. And Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop forlibertyshop.com. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today, That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Liberty lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at forlibertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at forlibertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Austin Peterson. They call me AP for Liberty, and you can find AP for Liberty anywhere you get your fine social medias. We're curating Instagrams, Facebooks, X, but don't look for us on YouTube at AP for Liberty. Look for us at For Liberty Network on YouTube, or just don't even look for us on YouTube at all. What is the point when you could be on Rumble, where all 118 people are hanging out this morning? We got somebody from the Isle of Alderney. We have a groin that is very relaxed. We've got Steelbringer, Joel Ledamore, bringing the heat. $5 in the tip jar. Thank you, sir. Don't forget to text Brad at that phone number at the bottom of the screen so that you can get an entry into our prize drawing at the end of the show. The Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live is what we call it. Everybody who plays will win. One person will take home a grand prize. So send us a text. If you've already contributed to the show, send us a text to 573-319-1586. But here's the thing. We've got to raise $100 in order to unlock the Great Grift Off, as well as unlock the mini documentary that we've produced for you guys. We've raised about $20 out of 100. I don't know. In the next hour, do you think we can do it? The easiest, fastest way, guys, is to head over to forlibertyshop.com. Head to forlibertyshop.com. You see that pineapple up there? That could be you holding a box of Thomas's Painkiller. At forlibertyshop.com. While you're there, buy a box of coffee. I think that we're all out of the Trumpy Buddhas there. I've printed my last one, I think. It's a lot of work. So if you've got one, congratulations. It's limited edition. Camellia Peterson is going to talk to us here in just a moment. There's another kind of hunger out there, not just the Cattlemen's Associations, the one that they will fill, but a hunger for meaning in life. The Hill published a powerful essay titled Why Men Are Leaving the Left and Not Coming Back. It argues that millions of men feel uninvited from modern society. They've been told that their drive to protect, to compete, to build is somehow toxic, and politics is becoming therapy and virtue becomes fragility. men are checking out of the Democrats in record numbers. Joining me now is somebody who has talked about this a lot with me, and she's always here Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central, Camellia Peterson. So good morning, Camellia, and thanks so much for joining us here on the Wake Up America show today. We appreciate you.
Good morning. I need to go back and watch the Cattlemen's Association interview because that's been a big deal. It's a big deal here in Missouri too.
It's a big deal. That's why I booked him to talk about it. I think that we went from the hyper local questions of the local stock markets and what the prices have been doing since Trump's announcement, and we went all the way up to international, talking about Argentina and even food labeling laws is another big question.
Yeah.
So, definitely check that out. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about there's no cattlemen in the Democrat these days. There's not a lot of blue collar workers in the Democrats these days, except for that one guy who mysteriously had the SS Nazi death's head tattoo. Did you see this guy running for U.S. Senate, the Democrat? Did you see this?
Yes, I was like, wait, what? Like, he's a Democrat?
Yeah, of course he's a Democrat. So anyways, but talk to us a little bit about this piece, at the Hill. Does it capture what you're hearing from men and family in your own circles, that the cultural message towards masculinity has become more hostile?
Oh, I think so. And, the interesting thing to me is that this is something you and I have been talking about for years now, actually. And so it does seem like, and the red pill / masculinity / MGTOW movement has been around for quite a long time at this point. And so it is the mainstream media, so to speak, has finally started catching up with this issue just in the last year. And so, you would see like an article here and an article there, but you've seen kind of more and not just from conservative outlets. So I think that there is a recognition, on the left for sure, that they have a masculinity problem and they have a problem with men, not being happy with the direction that the party has taken and they're leaving. And we saw that evidence not only in, the last election cycle, but I think we've also seen it evidenced in the backlash against, some of the advertising campaigns that have come out. It's like a little bit to their credit, right? Democrats have tried to respond to this and acknowledging it, but their response has been very clumsy. And it's like they're trying to respond without really responding. They're still trying to hold on to the version of masculinity that they've been promoting. And I don't think people are buying it. Men feel like they're being sold a line.
I appreciate that you point out that I have been all over these subjects before they broke out into the mainstream, Camellia, because it is true that when you watch the Wake Up America show, that you're hearing conversations from the future. My friend Vince Mamo actually said that recently because he was like, Austin, you were all over the transgender. He's like, he was telling me this story about this party, and I had forgotten. I was probably drunk. But we were in DC, and he goes, I remember you telling me that story about what was going on with the thing. And he said the South Park episode had just come out, and you're like, this is what it's going to be. This is the whole conversation of the left is going to become this, and it had. So imagine if I had had a podcast then, how much more people would know.
Yeah.
So thank you for pointing out my Nostradamus P for liberty, Nostradamus for liberty. But talk to us a little bit about, the institutions that once relied on men. So there's this piece that Helen Andrews wrote that came out recently, and I think we actually discussed it, where it was talking about how all of these major institutions like law, legal, medicine, entire institutions now dominated entirely by women. What had been male-oriented, dominated professions have now been completely captured by women. And no matter what the result of that is going to be, it's going to be a different result than what we would have if more men were doctors, if more men were lawyers, for example. Your thoughts?
No, I agree. In fact, I just heard somebody talking this morning about how this impacts our schools, and that you don't see nearly as many male teachers as you used to. A lot of times in administrative positions, superintendents and other positions of authority over school districts and schools, those are more often women now than they are men. And so I don't think that, there are always outliers, right? But I think that as a general rule, women tend not to be the disciplinarians in the home. Now, I don't want to say that carte blanche because that's not necessarily true, but there is a difference between men and women, between moms and dads when it comes to disciplining children. And so I think that, we do see the impact of that in the school system as well.
Do kids need harsh discipline from men?
I don't know if I would say harsh. I would say
harsh relative to what a woman might give. You just implied a lot. So let's not pretend.
Sure.
Let's not try and walk your words back or anything, unless you really want to walk back what you just said.
Yeah, no, I think that women are more likely to, give more chances and probably not, set a hard and fast line. They're more susceptible to the tears and all of those things. And that's, and I do think that men are often more able to be very objective and level-headed about those kind of things.
Wow.
Okay.
I am just loving this conversation. So we say so many interesting things.
Well, I never say what I think people want to hear. I say what I think.
Hold on, there's so much to unpack. Please continue.
Anyway, I do think that just overall there is a different approach and style. Why do you think you hear the trope that of the traditional family and the kids are acting up at home and the moms are like, just wait till your dad gets home, right? I mean, like how many times have you seen that, whether it's in, TV shows or just, that is like a kind of it's a societal thing that has been a norm. I think, probably up until recently even.
Most of us grew up with Judge Judy. Okay, so we've seen what it's like to see a tough broad sitting at the top of a court, for television at least. But if one were to follow your conclusions, considering when you're talking about men perhaps being less prone to emotional decisions and more objective, now that women have taken over the legal industry, we'll have not only more female lawyers, we'll have more female judges. Is that in America's best interest to have a profession that its fundamental basis is being objective, rather than subjective? Is that going to result in outcomes which are perhaps to be foreseen, if unforeseen? Tell us the future, Camellia, that you see.
I'm a little bit more hesitant to make that generalization in the legal field, just because I do think that by its nature and the fact that it's supposed to be a little bit more black and white, in that you are enforcing the law, and there is a certain degree of interpretation to that. So maybe in the interpretation where there's gray areas is maybe where that would come into play. But it seems to me, this is just my opinion that is not educated in that field, but it seems to me that there would be less chance of that being an issue in the legal field than it would be in others, just because there's more structure, and you do see things more in a very black and white sense, according to the law, so to speak, than you would in other areas.
So it's in when disciplining children, then the male might be more objective, but that does not apply when a woman it goes to a legal profession. I know a lot of tough female lawyers. And I'm sure there's a lot of tough female judges that are very objective. But I do think, but we can't. I think, unfortunately, Camellia, it's such there's such a gun to your head when you discuss some of these issues in certain ways, that there's everybody has sacred cows. And it's kind of like we're supposed to, you still can't approach certain subjects. Nowadays, it's okay for us to talk about things like fatigue, right? And regarding certain ethnicities, and that's on the table, but we can't have on the table what I would say are truly objective discussions about the differences between men and women, and about what the negative consequences of women dominating certain professions might be. For instance, are there men? I'm a perfect example of this. Okay, so it's not to say that all women, but there was a pharmacist who poisoned my doctor. There's a doctor who poisoned my mother's chemotherapy drugs. Right. So I know men can do terrible things, but I keep seeing these videos. Maybe it's my algorithm of things like nurses getting arrested saying, "If you don't come to my hospital because I'll let you die." Hearing stories about nurses who allow their patients to die or kill their patients. Stephanie and I watched the true crime stuff. And then I look it up and you see that there's this incidence of women who dominate the healthcare profession, providing subpar care for perhaps political reasons. Like, for example, I probably wouldn't want to show up to a hospital. Locally here, I might be okay. But if I'm wearing this hat and I show up to a hospital in New York City, do you think I should think I'm going to walk out with a hangnail and I'm going to leave without a leg? Is that a reasonable assumption, or am I just being hyperbolic because it's good for views on social media?
I mean, I think that is the exception by far rather than the rule. And there are like far more women in healthcare. And I think for the obvious reasons that we've been talking about and the differences between men and women. That said, there are always outliers. Like I have had some of the best nurses that I've ever had have been men, right? But they are not like, they're definitely not dominant in the field. And I think there are very good and legitimate reasons for that. But, you know, here's the thing, like Richard Reeves in that, I think he wrote the book of Boys and Men, and he has now established this, and he's a lefty, right? He's not on the right. But he recognized that this was a problem. So he wrote this book. It was really big, you know, a couple of years ago. It was making the rounds in conservative circles too. And he established a think tank called the American Institute for Boys and Men. And so he's looking at this problem. His approach to it has been a little bit different. And one of the things that he says is that he doesn't think that this problem with men has come about because feminism has been at the expense of men. I disagree with that a little bit, right? I mean, because I do think that it, in taking it to its extreme forms, it has part of the goal of some people in the feminist movement has been that it come at the expense of men. And part of that has been like the public denigration of men in their roles in our, you know, pop culture and movies and TV. And so I think that's permeated our culture in the last, 30, 40 years. And so, but he does say that the reality is like we have had a societal shift in terms of roles with men and women, and women being able to support themselves financially, those sort of things. And it requires of us a way to find a balance in there. But he's saying you still have to recognize, these basic needs of men. Those have not changed. So I think that to me, I think is where we are. There's no, like you and I have talked about this before. We are not going back to like women being, for the most part, like it's not going to be the norm of women being barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, right? I mean, that's going to work for some people. It's not going to work for other people. But there was.
I can understand that. I can understand that.
Sure.
And you have to accept that which you cannot change. But there are certain things that I cannot accept. Listen to this. Hold on. My transition button is really laggy today. One sec.
I don't think I can hear too.
Yeah, hold on. Oh, you don't have your audio on? Okay, just one moment. Let me turn it on for Camellia. Computer's just a little bit slow today. One sec. And boom, and go. Look at that. It's actually, now the transition button's working. Hold on.
To treat patients with healthcare workers take an oath to treat patients with integrity and compassion. But this nurse clearly forgot those words when she was arrested for driving.
I don't know why the audio is sucking right now. Sorry, hold on. It's the transition button. My buttons are just kind of like sticking. One second.
Who's just been busted for suspected driving.
Stop!
Now she's also out of a job after saying this.
Nurse, you come through my hospital, don't worry, I'll die.
Police say 35-year-old Chris Hadlock was stopped for speeding.
So she was drunk driving. She was stopped for speeding. She pulled over and she said, "Come to my hospital, let you die." You'd be shocked at how often actually I'm hearing that in some of like the true crime videos that we watch. These people, these nurses, they go in and they're either stealing from them or they're murdering their patients. We sort of think that females are all nice and sweet, but you all just are kind of like, you're just as psychotic and murderous as men, but you just don't do it in the open with a club.
I was going to say it's done differently, right?
Yeah.
That's why they say the choice for women was poison for murder.
There's a lot of crazy out there, Camellia. And of course, obviously, I wouldn't, compare suggest that all women are just like that. But I mean, what it is that I think that this veil that we wear over our faces as a society allows women like that, the dangerous, evil women, to thrive and survive and even thrive, because you're not allowed to call women out for their malbehavior. If a man yells at a woman in public, probably somebody's going to come up and physically, violently attack that man. There's this coddling, mollycoddling, shall we call it, of women in society that treats you like you're perfect creatures that can do no harm on one hand, and then also Mary Sue's that can do absolutely anything. You can fight crime, you can be spies, you can do absolutely everything and be a mom at the same time. You can literally breastfeed your child whilst killing 2 Islamic terrorists that are about to bomb like a local farmer's market.
Literally, yeah. Okay. I mean, the pedestalization of women, though, I don't think we see that as much as we saw maybe, in the 1950s, which is kind of the era that everyone likes to look back to as like the ideal nuclear family and everything was perfect, and it really wasn't, but whatever, it's propaganda. But I mean, it's that kind of that ideal, especially that you've seen elevated on the right in the last few years. But that was literally, I mean, if you want to talk about, somebody, fighting you because you yelled at a woman in public, like that's when it would have happened. I mean, that was unacceptable. But I think that, there's been, the pendulum always swings too far, right? I mean, it goes, we start out with change for good reasons, but it seems like we always go too far with that. And in that Hill article that you talked about, with men leaving the left and why we see this societal trend, there was one paragraph in there that I thought was really good that I wanted to point out. And it talks about some of these men that you have on the left. And he says, they're not bad men per se, but they are beige men. And like that, I thought was a good descriptor. And he said, they speak softly while the world shouts. They offer community care when men want competition, competence, and consequence. And they promise conversation in a culture crying out for courage. And they mean well, but politics built on politeness never stirs the blood. So, I mean, and that's where we've been, with you can't be offended by anything and you must constantly be polite, and nothing is worth getting excited about because, you just need to calm down and have some talk therapy.
Maybe they do need to calm down and just have talk therapy, because the men are talking at this point and it's time for women to listen. Camellia, the men will be talking after this. Daniel McCarthy from New York Post, you wrote a piece about the Argentina beef Thomas Massie thing. How do you feel about all this fighting between Thomas Massie, and then it's got Javier Milei, the Argentina thing? It's like, don't you wish mom and dad would stop fighting?
I do. And here's the thing. You know what I'd really love? I mean, every ag has been in the news constantly, like the last couple of months, and it's been a result of the tariffs. And I'd really love to see Trump come out and do something that seriously impacts the ag community and the beef industry, which would primarily be deregulation. Like some of these things we've been asking for a long time. Like, if you're going to do these other things, okay, fine, but at least give us a little something else that we've been asking for in terms of deregulation, because that's supposed to be his thing too, right? And if you're going to kind of stick it to him with tariffs, well, so I don't know. I think the beef industry situation right now is complex, and there's a lot of different reasons for it that you and I, as people who are not in that industry, don't probably understand all of the ins and outs. But I do think that there are things that people like Thomas Massie have been beating the drum on for a long time that will provide actual real help for them to thrive.
Yeah, I agree. But it's just a matter of getting the lobby on board, because you know how them lobbyists are, Camellia, right?
I know. Dirty lobbyists.
Hey, I guess we'll see you. What is today? It's Thursday? Thank God. Okay, so I guess we'll see you next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Central right here. Okay. Hope you have a great weekend, Camellia.
Yes, you will. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks so much. All right. Well, we're going to have a great show for you today. At 8:30, we're going to have Daniel McCarthy. He's the Tory anarchist over on X, but he's not an anarchist like you and I are anarchists. He's an anarchist like Tories would be anarchists, which is not the kind of anarchist that you would expect Tory anarchists to be, but this is America, not Great Britain. But he wrote an article for the New York Post. He's an American. By the way. And he's going to join us live here in looks like a little bit less than 10 minutes. But you guys, you've raised $95 towards the bonus content. I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you as a gimme and just say, here you go. The bonus content's unlocked. Enjoy your mini documentary while I go get Daniel McCarthy to talk about why Trump's beef strategy with Argentina is not about screwing American farmers. It's about fighting communism in the third world. We'll be right back with Daniel McCarthy on the Wake Up America show's For Liberty Network. What are you doing while we're watching the mini documentary? You be shopping. We be shopping at forlibertyshop.com. We'll be right back. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum.
October 18th saw numerous No Kings protests across the country, reportedly encompassing 2,700 events and 7 million demonstrators. Reason's own Nick Gillespie observed the demonstration in New York City, where he found fully peaceful protesters who hate President Donald Trump with intensity but not much specificity. Media coverage noted how smoothly the proceedings went. One place that did see police action was the town of Fairhope, Alabama, where multiple officers arrested 61-year-old Gina Gamble for wearing an inflatable penis costume and holding a sign that said, "No Dictator." While the situation sounds funny, the arrest is a violation of the First Amendment by prudish police and public officials. An officer observed an individual in a phallic costume near the Baldwin Square shopping center, the Fairhope Police Department posted on Facebook. The officer approached the woman and requested that she remove the costume, which is deemed obscene in a public setting. However, she refused to comply. As a result, Gamble was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, both of which are misdemeanor charges. That statement puts it mildly. As video posted to social media demonstrates, officers took Gamble to the ground by a busy road, handcuffed her, and dragged her to her feet. As onlookers protested the arrest, one officer shouted back, "I'm not going to have somebody out here dressed like this." A woman was arrested for lewd conduct because she was dressed in penis suit with a sign that said, "No Dictator." 3 cops on a 53-year-old woman. This type of behavior or display is not acceptable and will not be tolerated in Fairhope, Mayor Sherry Sullivan told 1819 News, a conservative Alabama news site. Protests should remain peaceful and free of profanity and obscene displays. The site added that Sullivan confirmed Gamble was first asked to leave the parade and was ultimately arrested. She crossed the line from freedom of expression to obscenity, Fairhope Police Lieutenant Shane Nolte told the local NBC affiliate. Sullivan and Nolte are completely wrong, as was the arresting officer who told onlookers he wouldn't allow someone to be dressed like this in public. Wearing a costume, whether or not the mayor likes it, is a peaceful act, and police haven't indicated that Gamble was doing anything while protesting to justify police attention. As to Sullivan's argument that protests should be free of profanity and obscene displays, that is also wrong. Regardless of whether anyone took issue with Gamble's costume or the word dick on her sign, both are within her First Amendment rights. In Cohen v. California, 1971, the U.S. Supreme Court heard the case of Paul Cohen, who was arrested after wearing a jacket that said, "Fuck the draft," into a Los Angeles courthouse, protesting conscription and the Vietnam War. He was convicted of disturbing the peace and sentenced to 30 days in jail. The Supreme Court overturned Cohen's conviction, finding that absent some other offense, the state cannot make the simple public display here involved of the single 4-letter expletive a criminal offense. The constitutional right of free expression is powerful medicine in a society as diverse and populous as ours, Justice John Harlan wrote for the 5-4 majority, adding that, while the particular 4-letter word being litigated here is perhaps more distasteful than most others of its genre, it is nevertheless often true that one man's vulgarity is another's lyric. The same applies to the costume itself. If you have a police officer going around telling people to remove costumes he thinks are offensive, you have speech police, Adam Steinbaugh, an attorney with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, posted on Blue Sky. And the department and city officials are defending it. Alabamians have the right to protest peacefully and to expect their government, including law enforcement, to respect those rights, Indivisible Baldwin County, the protest organizers said in a statement. People should not be subject to violent overreach by police just because they exercise their right to free speech in ways that are controversial or impolite. Speech, but only in ways the opponents of a message approve, is not free speech at all.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. Please click the like button. And if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, I'd love to have you be a regular guest. It's 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. I see we've picked up a bunch of new people here today. It's great to meet you all. Click the follow button if you haven't, and that will give you a notification when we go live, which is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It's beautiful 39 degrees here in Jefferson City, Missouri, as you can see on that. And then the Fox News ticker below will keep you updated, but you don't even need to read it because we've got all the news that you need. 7:30 this morning, earlier today, Central Time, we talked to the head of the Missouri Cattlemen's Association about how they feel about the back and forth between Donald Trump, Thomas Massie, with Javier Milei squeezed in between over the beef prices in this country. And we talked about masculinity with Camellia Peterson. And my next guest knows a thing about all of those, a little bit about all those things, and a lot of other things as well. His name's Daniel McCarthy. He's been a guest of the Wake Up America show before. He goes by the name Tory Anarchist over on X. Highly recommended follow. And I hope that he and all of you will forgive me this morning because we've got just a little bit of a slowdown. The processors of the PC are slowing down a little bit. So give me just a moment so I can get Daniel McCarthy on the show. He can hear me while I'm tap dancing to try and get his screen pulled up. And I'm sure he's laughing because, boy, wouldn't it be nice if this would actually just perfectly work in transition. There it is. And now he's on the screen. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Austin.
So this morning we've been talking a little bit about beef prices, and we talked about that from a hyper-local perspective, how Missouri cattlemen are feeling. But Trump is playing a bigger game here when it comes to importing Argentine beef. Would you please just set this up for us? Where's the beef, if you will, with Trump, Argentina, and cattlemen like they are here in Missouri we spoke to this morning?
Yeah, Trump has been emphasizing the domestic impact of importing Argentinian beef to lower prices in the supermarkets. But in fact, there's a foreign policy component as well, which is that Donald Trump is basically trying to help Milei in the forthcoming Argentine midterm elections, which are going to happen this Sunday. So we've already seen the Trump administration has prepared a $20 billion currency swap where we're going to give them relatively strong dollars in exchange for the weakening peso. And Trump has also talked about a further $20 billion in bailout assistance. Now, obviously, this is something that libertarians and America Firsters, for that matter, find pretty objectionable in principle. But I argue in my most recent column that actually this is something that, as a practical matter, makes a lot of sense. Because if we want to stop, massive flows of migration from Latin America, if we want to stop drug trafficking from Latin America, and if we want to keep Chinese influence out of our neighborhood to the south, we're going to have strong and relatively free market allies within Latin America. And making sure that Milei is in a position to succeed is actually a step in that direction. So even though it involves a little bit of bending the rules of America First and of libertarianism, this is actually something that in the long run is securing our neighborhood to the south and is basically making America's entire hemisphere much safer and much better, not just for us security-wise, but also economically.
Dan, we could probably have a 2-hour summit to discuss all of the intricacies of the situation and where so many interests coincide when it comes to what's good for Argentina and what's good for the United States. Because there are a lot of people, America Firsters and libertarians, who, for whatever reason, they don't like Javier Milei. Some of them don't like it for cultural, ethnic reasons. Some of them don't like it for their principled reasons. Some of them say, well, that argument's not actually pragmatic because being America first every time, 100% of the time, is what we voted for and it's what we deserve. So, and I can understand why people would be skeptical of this $40 billion currency swap with Argentina. Some people even call it election interference, if you will. But do you think that Trump has really divined the true path here, the golden path for all these chirping sectaries that we have on the right, as Russell Kirk might say? Do you think that Trump has really divined the true golden path for the United States in a way that helps everybody win, including the consumer who wants to pay, maybe not $10 for 90% lean beef?
Yeah, I think the big picture that Trump has drawn is the correct one. Now, think about this from the America First perspective. So there are people who basically, believe America First has to mean America alone. It has to mean America basically shutting off contact with a lot of its neighbors to the south, all of them perhaps, and that, we should not be interfering in their elections. We should not be interfering in whatever degree of stability they have or don't have. The trouble with that is that, of course, even if you want to think only about America's own territory, obviously you have to be concerned about mass migration. You have to be concerned about whether you have foreign interests, foreign superpowers, foreign communist superpowers like China getting involved in our neighborhood to the south. These have, tremendous security implications and economic implications, and ultimately political implications too, for us right here at home. So actually, if you want America to be able to conduct its own business in an America First way, you have to make sure that we don't have all these basically fires going on in our neighborhood. And anytime you have a socialist government or a left-wing Peronist government, which is what Argentina might eventually wind up with after Milei, if you have these left-wing governments, you're going to have such an economic basket case in these countries to our south that people are naturally going to leave those countries and try to come to the United States, legally or illegally. You're naturally going to have countries that are vulnerable to, or in fact eager to have, a communist China come to their rescue and provide them with bailouts. Now, I don't like it in principle that America has to provide lines of credit and other kinds of support for friendly countries to the south. But if we're not doing that, the Chinese will, and that's certainly going to increase their sway within our own hemisphere, which is definitely not something that's, putting America first or putting liberty first for that matter.
See, I think I agree with you, but that gets you called a neocon in the circles that I run in, Daniel McCarthy. When you make those kinds of realist foreign policy prescriptions, the chirping sectaries, specifically the isolationists, would argue that that intervention itself is not in America's interest and that it is better to every time follow the iron law of non-intervention, or for many people, and I think you've probably seen there really is a sort of a romanticism of a return to an isolationism. And I'm not saying that in the way that people who are using it pejoratively would, maybe during the Bush years and the Romney years and McCain years, but I'm using it rather descriptively because there really has been a return to a sort of Buchananite isolationism, especially among younger people, something to acknowledge, right?
Yeah, Pat Buchanan himself was never a pure isolationist. I mean, certainly during the Cold War, he was very supportive of our efforts against the Soviet Union. Actually, during the Cold War, Pat Buchanan also saw it as very important that America have Israel as an ally. So people here in the 21st century who are presenting Pat Buchanan as someone who believed that America would simply stay within its own borders and have no interest, no concerns, economically, strategically, or otherwise, beyond those borders, they basically have a false picture even of Pat Buchanan. It seems to me that, if you really want to prevent, a neocon push for regime change in places like Venezuela or Cuba, the best way to do that is to prevent circumstances like those in Venezuela and Cuba from arising in the first place. So to the greater extent that you have success for pro-American and free market elements within Latin America, the less opportunity there's going to be for socialists and communists to come to power, which is going to create less opportunity for neocons in our country to urge that we have to have regime change operations against a Maduro or against the communists in Cuba.
See, I knew that you're pretty much one of the only people that I can have a sane and sound conversation about these things, Daniel, because I've been making a lot of these same sounds that you have been making, but it feels as if, in terms of the chirping sectaries, those closest to my ideological viewpoint have really gotten themselves tied up into the foreign policy question and have really solely isolated themselves down to the question of Israel and Gaza and the Middle East. It feels like there's a bit of a hangover from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars and a desire to look at neoconservatism and their failed project for a new American century and their desire to bring the desire to bring an end to the conflicts in the Middle East. Have strayed strangely into what I would sort of say, again, almost Antifa level of Howard Zinn level of foreign policy, where it views this kind of, it has, like, American libertarianism has sort of adopted what I would consider to be something of a Howard Zinn view of history, where it's about oppressors and the United States and Israel are these oppressors. And they look at that because of the lens of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, which were, failed neocon experiments for certain. But now it's as if we're looking at all of these new conflicts like that's why it's always everything is going to be World War III. But Trump finds the golden path, bombs Iran, allows Israel, allegedly, to bomb Doha, Qatar, the allies, the people that we're accepting planes with, and manages to bring hostages home. And yet the people that are closest to perhaps, I say our ideological ilk, we're sort of somewhere on the branch of the same tree of conservatism, if you will, Daniel. But it feels like a lot of these chirping sectaries don't really know what time it is. Trump knows what time it is. Some of MAGA knows what time it is, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people who are closer on our branch of the tree seem to know what time it is foreign policy wise. Am I divining this incorrectly? Are you seeing something I'm not seeing?
Well, you're exactly right. A lot of our friends view foreign policy through a kind of a priori lens, and it's a completely abstract picture for them. And there are certain inviolable rules, which, they think as long as they follow, everything is going to turn out okay, which is not actually true. And sometimes, even if the rule is a good rule, it may not be something that you can actually follow in the circumstances that you're given. And now Trump is a master of improvisation. I shouldn't say just improvisation, but he's a master of realizing what he has to do in a given set of circumstances in order to get the best possible outcome, which is not to say it's the best theoretical outcome, but it's the best outcome that can be had within the circumstances that we're actually dealing with. And he's been very, very successful at this time and time again. This was true during the first term. It's been true so far in the second term as well. Obviously, these are all very high stakes, initiatives that Donald Trump is undertaking, and there's a potential for them to go, upside down. So there's a risk, for example, that what he's doing with Argentina may actually tick off Argentinian voters who see, Yankees interfering in Argentinian politics, and maybe that's going to create a backlash against Milei. So there's room here to criticize on practical grounds or to say, prudentially, is this really going to work? But if you have this kind of just imaginative approach to foreign policy where, you don't think that one of the weird things that's come to really bother me about libertarians, they understand correctly that there's a lot of evil in the United States federal government. And they understand that the state in the abstract can be a very, very bad thing, and usually is. But then they never apply that to other states. So it turns out that,
God bless you,
that
Dan
communist
McCarthy.
Blessings for example, which is
upon you.
Blessings. An actual communist state that puts people in camps, that this is not a worse thing than the U.S. federal government.
Dan, I need your address after the show so I can send you a Christmas card this year, because I've just been waiting for someone else with any credibility to say exactly what I've been saying and getting hell for it, because the libertarians really have so isolated themselves into their ideological bubble that they're incapable of seeing forest for trees. Many libertarians, for example, Dan, they despise Javier Milei. And part of that has to do with his affinity for a certain ethnicity, which has become very much in vogue on the right to criticize. Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene have really come out strongly against AIPAC. The Jewish question, it's certainly come up much more in our right-wing circles than it had. We used to have conversations back during the newsletter years about, at Murray Rothbard, not only did he march with the Maoists, but he also was a fan of David Duke, anything to overthrow the system. But now it seems, strangely enough, Dan, tell me if I'm going too far with this, but it's almost as if the right has adopted every crackpot libertarian conspiracy theory, but not a single one of our economic ideals or civil libertarian ideals. Is that going too far, or are you seeing this as well, or am I in my own bubble?
Well, I think there's some truth to that. I've been arguing that one reason why libertarians should be open-minded about Trump, and even if they disagree with him, they should just not write him off, and they should not write off MAGA, is precisely because if you do that, if you completely separate yourselves from MAGA and from Donald Trump, then you don't have a seat at the table, and you can't influence and make policies that you might find bad less bad. Instead, you're going to have people saying, well, look, the libertarians are aligned with the anti-colonialist, pro-Palestinian hardline left. We should completely not only ignore them, but basically do the opposite of anything that they say. And that's crazy. And also, again, just look at these foreign elements that so many libertarians sympathize with. There are plenty of criticisms you can make about Israel and about Netanyahu. Israel does, however, have a pretty robust free market economy. It's a stable country. It's a safe country. None of these things apply in an awful lot of, to a lot of Israel's neighbors. They're not free. Saudi Arabia is definitely not a free country. You can look at their economies, and oftentimes these are economies that are controlled either because the government has a monopoly on a single resource, or the government has other kinds of controls over its population, economically speaking. So I don't see why aligning with communist China or with Saudi Arabia or with terrorists in regions that don't even have any kind of law and order whatsoever, like Gaza. I don't see why that is more libertarian than saying, you know what, Israel might have its ups and downs, but actually this is more like a model for other countries than the alternatives that are out there. And of course,
so where's the derangement syndrome? So for example, Tucker Carlson used to be like the decider of what is mainstream and not mainstream on the right. And it seems as if now he's sort of flipped the script. He used to, I was in Minnesota, for example, in 2008 with Ron Paul's Rally for the Republic, when Tucker Carlson pissed us all off by leaving the convention in a huff because Jesse Ventura said 9/11 was an inside job on stage. Now he's regularly platforming those people, and sort of, 9/11 trutherism was kind of a libertarian thing until it became, an anti-Bush Republican thing. But now it's sort of strange because when I was talking about the conspiracies theories of the right, those were libertarian conspiracy theories, and now they're mainstream. But Tucker Carlson is also endorsing Elizabeth Warren's economic plan and suggesting that libertarians control everything in Washington, D.C., and then Candace Owens is just full on Jew hate. But there is a strange paranoia, conspiracy conservatism that has become mainstreamed on the right. Are you seeing this as well? Or is Tucker still, in your mind, is he on the right path? Because I'm getting no end of hell by saying, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I think with Tucker, what's happened is, he was deliberately being more mainstream than his actual views were back in 2008. So I was also at the Rally for the Republic. Tucker was actually a very strong Ron Paul supporter, especially philosophically. But, he was working for MSNBC at the time. He still had connections to the Weekly Standard, the neocon magazine that still existed. So Tucker was not really expressing exactly what his full views were back then. And I'm not saying that his views were aligned with Jesse Ventura's, but he was having to basically walk a tightrope and censor himself because he had mainstream media access. And I think what happened is that, once Fox fired him and got rid of him, Tucker felt like he should do the opposite of anything that he would have done back in his days working for the corporate media. And so, in a way, I think he's overcorrecting or over-responding to this change of circumstances. And he now says, look, if those guys were suppressing me when I was absolutely right about the Iraq War and absolutely right about Ron Paul, then maybe everything else they're suppressing is also worth entertaining or is worth examining. But that, of course, you can't simply take one thing that's 100% wrong and put a minus sign in front of it and invert it and say that everything that's exactly the opposite is going to be right. Because in fact, you wind up with, two completely crazy approaches. One of them being, kind of the mainstream, which embraces any sort of, stupid war and stupid growth of government. And then, on the other side, embracing too many conspiracy theories and anything that just kind of feels like it's sticking it to, the man in the mainstream media. So I would hope that, over time, Tucker kind of goes from overcorrecting and swinging too far in the opposite direction on this pendulum to maybe getting into, a balance. And he's got enough of an audience of his own that he doesn't have to do this. He can decide kind of how far he wants to go and how far he doesn't want to go. I think with Candace Owens, you probably do have, a case of someone who, just mentally speaking, is not on the same wavelength as normal people. And I don't mean that as, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not diagnosing here, but, she had this exchange even with Bill Maher where they were talking about the moon landing. And she says to Bill Maher, well, look, if we really landed on the moon, how come we never went back? And of course, normal people, including Bill Maher, who, I have my criticisms of Bill Maher, but he's just like, well, we did go back. We went back a lot of times.
Yeah, I tuned her out over a decade ago when she made an appearance and was talking about Hitler and nationalism. That was it just struck me as somebody who, got C's and D's in history class when they were growing up and now proceeds to lecture the rest of us on it. But I mean, social media fame is not connected to credibility when it comes to points of view. This is entertainment, except when you're watching the Wake Up America show and you actually get a little bit of substance and content on your crazy, silly, fun podcast that we watch. But the podcasts have taken over. The inmates are sort of running the asylum, aren't they, Daniel? It used to, back in the day, MSNBC and Fox News would trim the hedges of people like Tucker Carlson or whoever would make it to mass millions of fame. But now any hobo with a smartphone can do a podcast and blow up online, right?
Yeah, and you can see why it's happening. It's because, the mainstream media was so constrained and, was so determined to put people in boxes or, in terms of ideological orthodoxy that once the mainstream media lost its death grip on, the nation's communications, you suddenly had a, not just a Wild West environment, but a kind of war of all against all, a very Hobbesian environment. So we've gone again from one extreme to the other. And I do blame, the mainstream media for a lot of this, precisely because they bottled up. I mean, during the Iraq War, for example, and you remember this, it was very hard for, any kind of criticism whatsoever to get out there. And the mainstream media, they even had this thing, and this is something I know that Pat Buchanan himself experienced. Buchanan actually had a platform on MSNBC of all places back then. And, he was getting called on the carpet by his bosses at the network who were telling him, look, we have you on our shows as a token Republican. And so we expect you to endorse the Republican line. And if President Bush, a Republican, is going to war, that means we expect you to support the war. And if you're criticizing the war, even if you're doing it for conservative reasons, we find that uncomfortable because, again, this is basically like pro wrestling. We have this as a staged fight where we expect the face and the heel. We expect people to have predictable views. We don't want to have a free and open-ended discussion where people are actually honestly questioning what's happening.
Daniel, you and I have known each other for years. We've always had really fascinating conversations. I read pretty much everything you put out to try and get an idea for where you're at. I think instinctually I'm still a libertarian, but I definitely identify with a lot of the goals that MAGA has. I've done my part to try and stake my claim in the libertarian movement with the form of what I think is a libertarian nationalism that's compatible with American ideals, and at its heart still holds true to the ideas of Frederick Bastiat or Ludwig von Mises or Friedrich Hayek or many of the other, Henry Hazlitt or the Milton Friedman. But I definitely feel unmoored from what American libertarianism has become, and feel very much thoroughly identified with Milleiism, who is very much pro-West. And I see just a very strong anti-West fervor coming from not just libertarians, but from people like, Tucker Carlson and others in the podcast sphere there's a very third world coded anti-American attack that feels like it's artificially happening. And I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but I do think that perhaps some of the malign influence on podcasters and on the media and some of these figures may come from certain Gulf states which have lots of money to spend here, but I don't want to go into the weeds there. I'd really just like to finish, Dan, with just kind of picking your brain as a Tory anarchist. Do you feel like when you and I first met, I think you were writing for the American Conservative, perhaps, or you had just finished writing. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I'd like to just know where your brain is at these days. Are you just feeling kind of MAGA Trump these days? Or do you feel like there's a philosophical grounding that sort of describes yourself? Where are you out on the Nolan chart, paleo, conservative, neo? How are you feeling this? Or just plain pragmatic, Dan? How do you look at things? What lenses are you using to look at the world today?
I think there's been a lot of consistency. So again, back in the 1990s, when I was first getting interested in politics, I was very much a Pat Buchanan paleo conservative. In the early 2000s, when you had the George W. Bush administration in power, I was certainly very sympathetic to Ron Paul. And in fact, I worked for the 2008 Ron Paul campaign. I think there's a lot of truth in paleo libertarian critiques of the American state and of socialism in all its forms. So, I think there's still a lot of compatibility actually between paleoconservatism and paleo-libertarian. And obviously there are differences on things like trade. But the argument I've tried to make to my libertarian friends is, look, if you have these trade policies, which you find very dangerous and damaging, this means that you should actually go to your MAGA friends and say, okay, so since I'm saying this is going to be a really bad thing, if you want to have me in your coalition, and you should have me in your coalition, give me a trade-off. Let's lower taxes on all Americans so that we're offsetting, any kind of impact coming from tariffs, offsetting that by lowering taxes so that Americans have more dollars in their pocket to go out and consume. You can actually make a stronger libertarian case based on some of the non-libertarian things that MAGA and Donald Trump are doing. And it seems to me, there is a mix and a balance here. So yesterday I was on a British podcast, and I pointed out that even though the British people were talking about, how MAGA is a bit more statist and maybe more socialist, I pointed out that actually if you look at red states, the states that Republicans control, they are much freer, and it's much easier to start a business, and they are much healthier as a result. So it's not even the case that the Republican Party has, gone in a completely statist populist direction, or libertarians might say a socialist direction. It's a mixture. You have tariffs at the national level, but actually that is protecting, or that is helping to create conditions in which Republicans can still be extremely free market and pro-business, and pro-starting new businesses, which is the vital thing at the state level in places like Florida and Texas.
Yeah, honestly, Daniel, I know that this is going to sound perhaps overly sentimental, but hearing you say these things gives me a lot of hope personally, because I've really felt lost in the wilderness in some ways in the last several years, just because of where the Tea Parties had left us and MAGA had taken over, and a strong anti-libertarian streak that has risen up amongst young people. They're skipping their libertarian phase and they're going straight to Heil Hitler, which I recommend against. So, Dan, is there anything else you want to share with our audience before we let you go? Is there anything you'd like to plug? This is your opportunity. We've got a nice audience size, so please do share anything that you'd like.
Yeah, in addition to my syndicated column, which comes out from Creator Syndicate, and you can find that at the New York Post, you can find it at Chronicles Magazine and many other fine publications. I'm also the editor of a quarterly journal called Modern Age, and its website is www.modernAgeJournal.com.
That's great. Dan, hey, thanks so much. Please keep up the great work, and thank you so much for pinging me with the email about the article you wrote about Javier Milei. I guess we've got a lot to look forward to. His elections, now we're all invested, so like it or not, on the 26th, we better hope he wins. Have a good one, Dan.
So. Thanks.
Thank you very much. That's Dan McCarthy. Daniel McCarthy writes for the New York Post as well as many other publications, and we're grateful to have his input on the show. Who's ready to play the game? Who wants to play Liberty Loot Live? You guys ready? Okay, here we go. I'm going to do just like one quick little commercial break, guys. And then when we get back from that brief little commercial break, we're going to play Liberty Loot Live. If you want to play, you got to get your room code. If you want your room code, you got to send us a text. How do you get your room code? Text 573-319-1586. You will get your room code. If you've donated to the show, it's time to play Liberty Loot Live. Somebody's going to win a prize. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others start conversations. The ones at 4libertyshop.com, they raise eyebrows, win arguments, and occasionally get you banned from PTA meetings. Whether you're repping freedom, mocking tyrants, or just making the left squirm, we've got the gear that says what you're thinking. Loud, proud, unapologetic. Grab yours today at 4libertyshop.com because your shirt should speak louder than your neighbor's bumper sticker. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a redcoat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors, and trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at 4libertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at 4libertyshop.com. Look, not all t-shirts are created equal. Some just sit there. Others, legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the 4 Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Imagine bringing George Washington back to life. Just to explain that in 2025, men can get pregnant, waving an American flag might offend someone, and our government is $34 trillion in debt. But that's not all, George. We have drag queen story hour for toddlers, pronouns are mandatory, and Harvard can't define woman. Oh. And we send billions to Ukraine but can't fix potholes in Ohio. You know, just normal modern empire stuff. I'm sure he'd be totally cool with it. Right after he finishes reloading. He didn't cross the Delaware for this nonsense, but you can carry on the fight with gear that would have made King George cry. Shop bold, shop free, shop 4libertyshop.com. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness.
All right, it's the Great Grift Off Liberty Loot Live. Somebody today is going to take home a nice prize. Everybody who plays is going to win, and it's time for us to play a little Halloween trivia. Let's get ready. There's a chill in the air. Finish the song. There's a chill in the air, and it's coming for you. The shadows creep in. Run while you can, or with eyes that glow. Whoever wins today's Liberty Loot Live game is going to take home a nice prize. Looks like Siggy's mom wants it really bad. Dara Leaked, Andy Opperman, and Quest hanging out. 1, 2, 3, 4 players. I always feel like out of the shadows, creeping through the night, somebody's watching me. Everybody got it? I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Oh, round 3. He did the mash, and now we run. Dancing in the dark, the bell tolls, or he did the monster mash. The monster mash, Siggy's mom feeling strong. Got it going on. Matching pairs. This is how people who don't know the trivia questions that well can do to try and win the game. Come back with a little matching pair. How good is your memory? How many matching pairs can you get? How many matching pairs can you get? You'll see them on your phone. Play it on your phone. Play the matching pairs game. We're on round 4 of 12 on Liberty Loot Live, the Great Grift Off. I need to get some like background music for this one. Siggy's mom still feeling strong, but Dara Leaked and Quest really want to play. Trivia, round 5. Let's get the right answer. If you want to play a game, you want to see something strange. What's behind the door where shadows crawl, or the full moon glow? Finish the song. Something strange, what's behind the door where shadows crawl, the full moon glow. We are playing for real prizes today. You want to see something strange? Siggy's mom wants it bad today. She's got to get that mug from the Grift Shop. Text trivia, type the right answer. Here it is. Finish the line from The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is... Ooh, let's see who's going to get it right. Ooh, there's little secrets. Who's going to get it? 10 seconds left. Remember, we are playing for real prizes here today, but everybody who plays can win or will win. This is Halloween. Everybody have a scream. Siggy's mom and Dara Leaked are fighting tooth and nail for first place. Trivia, get the right answer. Round 7 of 12. I'm friends with the monster that creeps under the floor, that howls at night, that's under my bed or in the haunted room. 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Yes, we're playing Liberty Loot Live. That's under my bed was the answer. Ooh, Siggy's mom. She is stomping everyone today. She loves it. Trivia. Get the right. Round 8 of 12. It's just a bunch of screams in the night, hocus pocus, tricks and treats, or ghastly sounds. Just remember that even if you're behind right now, we're only in round 8. You still got time to come back and win. So play your hearts out, guys. You never know. Ooh, nice little pumpkin there, Joni. Thank you. It's just a bunch of hocus pocus. Siggy's mom, she's feeling strong. Question Drew Van Runkle, though. Drew came out of nowhere, man, from behind. He zoomed ahead. It just goes to show this game can flip in a round. Spooky, scary skeletons. Play tricks on your mind. Send shivers down your spine. Creep into your dreams. Dance in the haunted moonlight. Spooky, scary skeletons. Spooky, scary skeletons. Here we go. Send shivers down your spine. Oh, Dara Leak doesn't want to give it up. He's not just going to let her run away with it. Rock, paper, scissors. This is your chance. Make your pick. Rock, paper, scissors. Let's see if you can beat the algorithm. 8 seconds left. Crowd party. App. 3, 2, 1. Rock, paper, scissors. There you go. It was rock. Siggy's mom. Oh, Dara Leaked. Oh my goodness. And then Drew Van Runkle falls into 4th. See, this game can turn fast. We've only got 2 more rounds, so there's still a chance. Somebody once told me the ghost was in the mirror. I should stay inside. The world is going to roll me, or to run from the grave. Oh God, I want to sing it so bad. The world is gonna roll me. Last round, Siggy's mom and Derelict. Oh my God, if Siggy's mom gets it wrong and Derelict gets it right, then they'll win. Text trivia, here we go. Last round. Finish the lyric from Michael Jackson's Thriller. Because this is Thriller. 20 seconds. I got a feeling I know how this is going to end. Because this is Thriller. This is Thriller. Thriller Night. Thriller Night. Yes. There it is. Game over. See who the winner. It's Siggy's mom. Derelict had a close second. Thanks for playing, guys. And thanks for your financial contributions to the show. Hey, guess what, Siggy's mom? You're going to get a coupon now for a free mug from the Grift Shop. So hope you enjoy it. Brad, send her a coupon for a free mug from the shop. Any mug that you like. I recommend the ATF Sucks mug. If you didn't win, guys, don't worry about it. You can still get the mug at 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Head over to 4libertyshop.com and see our new ATF Sucks design that Brad made. It's really good. We also have an ATF Sucks mug. We also have ATF Sucks t-shirt. So hoodies, t-shirts, ATF Sucks. But whichever mug you would like from the shop, Siggy's mom, shall be yours. I highly recommend that you guys just click on our mugs collection and shop while she shops. Picture yourself like Siggy's mom right now. She gets to come over here to the Grift Shop and pick out a mug that she likes and just sell it on the shop. It's a beautiful system. Pick the mug that you like. Go to 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. And if we sell a mug to one of you guys by the end of the day, then I'll give you another entry into the game for tomorrow. So go ahead and make your purchases today. Go to 4libertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show's 4 Liberty Network. Have a good one. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, I guess I should show that off. Steffi made a new pop art Founding Fathers blanket. Check that out. That's awesome, Stephanie. Nice job there. Pop art Founding Fathers blanket comes in 2 different sizes. I want the big one, Stephanie. Let's get the big one for our house. What do you say? I can put it on the bed, and then I can kiss you in the face there. See you guys tomorrow.
October 18th saw numerous No Kings protests across the country, reportedly encompassing 2,700 events and 7 million demonstrators. Reason's own Nick Gillespie observed the demonstration in New York City, where he found fully peaceful protesters who hate President Donald Trump with intensity but not much specificity. Media coverage noted how smoothly the proceedings went. One place that did see police action was the town of Fairhope, Alabama, where multiple officers arrested 61-year-old Gina Gamble for wearing an inflatable penis costume and holding a sign that said, "No Dictator." While the situation sounds funny, the arrest is a violation of the First Amendment by prudish police and public officials. An officer observed an individual in a phallic costume near the Baldwin Square Shopping Center, the Fairhope Police Department posted on Facebook. The officer approached the woman and requested that she remove the costume, which is deemed obscene in a public setting. However, she refused to comply. As a result, Gamble was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, both of which are misdemeanor charges. That statement puts it mildly. As video posted to social media demonstrates, officers took Gamble to the ground by a busy road, handcuffed her, and dragged her to her feet. As onlookers protested the arrest, one officer shouted back, "I'm not going to have somebody out here dressed like this." A woman was arrested for lewd conduct because she was dressed in penis suit with a sign that said, "No dictator." 3 cops on a 53-year-old woman. This type of behavior or display is not acceptable and will not be tolerated in Fairhope, Mayor Sherry Sullivan told 1819 News, a conservative Alabama news site. Protests should remain peaceful and free of profanity and obscene displays. The site added that Sullivan confirmed Gamble was first asked to leave the parade and was ultimately arrested. She crossed the line from freedom of expression to obscenity, Fairhope Police Lieutenant Shane Nolte told the local NBC affiliate. Sullivan and Nolte are completely wrong, as was the arresting officer who told onlookers he wouldn't allow someone to be dressed like this in public. Wearing a costume, whether or not the mayor likes it, is a peaceful act, and police haven't indicated that Gamble was doing anything while protesting to justify police attention. As to Sullivan's argument that protests should be free of profanity and obscene displays, that is also wrong. Regardless of whether anyone took issue with Gamble's costume or the word dick on her sign, both are within her First Amendment rights. In Cohen v. California, 1971, the U.S. Supreme Court heard the case of Paul Cohen, who was arrested after wearing a jacket that said, "Fuck the draft," into a Los Angeles courthouse, protesting conscription and the Vietnam War. He was convicted of disturbing the peace and sentenced to 30 days in jail. The Supreme Court overturned Cohen's conviction, finding that absent some other offense, the state cannot make the simple public display here involved of the single 4-letter expletive a criminal offense. The constitutional right of free expression is powerful medicine in a society as diverse and populous as ours, Justice John Harlan wrote for the 5-4 majority, adding that, while the particular 4-letter word being litigated here is perhaps more distasteful than most others of its genre, it is nevertheless often true that one man's vulgarity is another's lyric. The same applies to the costume itself. If you have a police officer going around telling people to remove costumes he thinks are offensive, you have speech police, Adam Steinbaugh, an attorney with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, posted on Blue Sky, and the department and city officials are defending it. Alabamians have the right to protest peacefully and to expect their government, including law enforcement, to respect those rights, Indivisible Baldwin County, the protest organizers said in a statement. People should not be subject to violent overreach by police just because they exercise their right to free speech in ways that are controversial or impolite. Speech, but only in ways the opponents of a message approve.